The quickest way to get sponsored is to not set the goal of getting sponsored, because I think a lot of times you can be like, I have to get sponsored. I'd say have fun with it. Go out there and like be your best self, because usually your performances will come when you're enjoying it and you're crossing the finish line and first or 10th and have a smile on your face and you're like bringing energy to the running community. Like that is what matters. Not somebody that's white knuckling for one performance so that they get a 4-year sponsorship so that they never perform again.
I'm Andy Wacker, and basically why I was thinking about doing this is I've been a pro trail and road runner for about 10 years or a little bit longer. I've run for Adidas, I've run for Nike, I've run for Salomon. And on top of that, I've started this thing called the Trail Team. And in the last month, basically, I've talked to 20 athletes and they've all asked me a lot of great questions. And at some point I was like, man, I need to share this with more than just those 20 people. But kind of that demographic is young, up and coming runners who want to become professionals with whatever that means, because I think that's kind of a vague term. Maybe we'll get into that today. So it's really just looking to how we can help people who are aspiring pro runners and what they need to do to make their next step. So first of all, I just want to thank Long Run Labs and Jonathan Levitch for all the recording that's going on. That's helped with him. We're here at Scratch Labs in Boulder, Colorado. You guys don't know, for those tuning in. And first of all, I want to introduce our panel because we have some amazing people that we've gathered to talk about this because they're super knowledgeable. So first, I'll start with Drew Hunter. Drew is a professional distance runner for ASICS. He's based here in Boulder, Colorado. He's a national high school record holder. He turned professional at 18 and quickly became one of the fastest young American distance runners. Drew has personal bests of 3:33 in the 1500, 13:08 in the 5K, and 27:24 in the 10K, and is pursuing major championship teams in the coming years. Beyond competing, Drew is the founder of Hammer and Axe, a coaching and storytelling-driven running platform focused on helping athletes of all levels train with purpose. He currently lives in Longmont, Colorado with his wife and 2 daughters. So welcome, Drew.
Thanks for having me.
Next we have Eli Hemming. Eli is a pro mountain runner, coffee roaster, and cowboy who became the first American man to win the OCC by UTMB last year, 2024. Most days just running mountains, roasting beans, and trying to keep up with his wife, Tabor, who's here in the audience. Awesome. Welcome, Eli.
Thanks for having me.
And then finally we have Courtney. Courtney is a sub-ultra runner for Brooks and represented the U.S. in the Mountain Classic at World Championships this year, where she helped USA nab silver. She's also coming off a top 10 season ranking in this year's Golden Trail World Series. So a super big trail year for Courtney. Welcome, Courtney. Cool. All right, guys, so I'm just going to jump into it and ask some questions about professional running. So Eli, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
So professional runners are often successful because of those around them. So we have a lot of support. So for example, there's coaching, there's nutrition, mental support in terms of like sports psychology. There's people who help you with your schedule. That might be a coach, might be someone else. PT, massage, lifting, like so many things. So basically, I just want to ask you, like, who makes up your team as a professional? And what do you suggest that runners need who are like entering the world of pro running?
Yeah, so, I mean, when I started this, it was definitely just Tabor and I going around asking people what we should be doing. Like, I was at the receiving end of Andy's advice many, many times, like when we were trying to figure out a schedule. And it's kind of figuring out just people that have been in the sport longer than you, because when you first get in, it's hard. There's a lot of races to do. You don't know which ones to do. Currently, Tabor and I coach ourselves. We did have a coach when we first started, but kind of found that we would like to do our own thing, but we do have a group of smart people like Chris Lee, kind of oversees our training and just lets us know when we're being a little over-ambitious or greedy, as he likes to say. But yeah, I don't know. I think the best thing to do is kind of just go ahead and ask. Like, this is such an awesome community. Go to those people that have been through what you are going through. And if you ask, it's surprising what people will tell you. Everybody here is an open book. So I'd just say, go ahead and ask anybody.
Nice. I have a quick follow-up actually, because I've had a lot of athletes I've talked to recently talk about like mental training. And what I mean by that is like, I guess my question is, have you ever worked with a sports psychologist or someone like that? And if not, do you have some kind of way of like thinking about goals and thinking about like the challenges that are not like the physical challenges of a race?
I personally haven't worked with like any sports psych. I've kind of always just thought of sport as something I really enjoy doing, and I saw the racing as kind of my social outlet. So it wasn't necessarily this big scary thing that I was doing. I actually really enjoy going and getting my teeth kicked in at races. It's kind of one of my big favorite things to do. I'm very good at getting my teeth kicked in at this point. But I do know that a lot of people find a lot of success using sports psychs. And so I'd say if you are worrying about that side of things, that's no harm in going and seeing somebody. A lot of people do. Just because I don't doesn't mean you shouldn't.
Yeah, maybe one last quick follow-up is like with goal setting, like how do you decide like what the best goal is? Because again, like I'm self-coached, I understand that. You're self-coached, you work with Tabor, you work with Chris Lee, like you were saying. So how does that process look like in terms of like, do you have one big goal for the year? Do you set like an ABC goal, even within like a race or a training block? Like, can you speak to that really quickly?
Yeah, so I would say as for goal setting, I personally kind of have been going, again, I'm really not that experienced in the sport. This is only my third year as a professional. And kind of I'm still finding what I want to do, what I like to do. And there are so many different races throughout this sport. So I'm trying all of them and seeing what I like the most. And really, you're not going to have the most success unless you're really passionate about going to that race. So if you really like mountains, go find some mountainous races to go do. Why I'm not super anxious to go race Western States, because it's running away from the mountains the whole time. So it's one of those that I look for mountainous races because I really like mountains. For training blocks, I don't know. I do go for, say, like, I think it's good to do one A race a year and then kind of build everything around it. But I don't think you can really peak more than once, maybe twice a year. So I try to do one A race a year and then everything else is for fun.
Yeah, that's great advice to have like a focus. Cool. All right, moving on to you, Drew. I've had a lot of athletes ask me about this, so kind of paraphrased, are race results the main way to get your first sponsor? Like, how can I get in touch with brands? What's the preferred communication method? So I think it's really just talking about like that first touch point with a sponsor. Do you just win a race and hope they talk to you?
Yeah, first off, thanks for doing all this. This is great. This is like one of my favorite things to talk about. So really, happy to be here. Yes, that you have to run fast and you have to, compete at a high level to, have the conversation start with most sponsors. However, that's not the only thing. And I think sometimes that may scare people off. And that's not what I'm trying to do at all. I am just trying to be honest. I'm going to give a few different examples. I was with Adidas for almost a decade, like 9 years. My contract was up last year. I had the best year of my running career that year. I was very confident I was going to get re-signed by them, and they offered me an incredibly low-ball offer. And I had not been in that position before because I'd been with them for so long. I signed my original contract, like you talked about, when I was 18. And I sort of was unsure about like what the next steps were. So for me personally, the first thing I would say is always go out and seek multiple brands. That's the first thing I would advise. If you have an agent, they should be doing that for you. And if you don't have an agent, then you should be doing that yourself. The worst thing I think you can do is get one offer. Even if it's something you're happy with, go see your true market value and go test those waters. The second thing I would implore everyone to do is to, outside of running and performance, ask yourself and ask the company that you want to work with how else you can provide value. I signed with ASICS last year. Something that they were really, really looking for in an athlete is a men's track and field distance runner. They didn't have that. They were very strong on the roads. They have strong trail athletes. They were, I was filling that niche that they didn't know, that they knew that they needed. And so I knew to them that was a company that was more valuable. Versus my previous brand, they have Nico Young, they have Hobbs Kessler, they have guys getting medals. So for me, I wasn't someone that was maybe as valuable to Adidas anymore. So I think it's important to understand where you can fit in the picture for whatever brand you're looking for and whatever you're looking to do in the next 4 years. And finally, I think like there's a lot of things outside of just performance that we can help, that can really help. I love media stuff. I similar to you, like I started a track and field team. Like that was something that I was really passionate about. I like to, help athletes, find their way in this sport. That was something I really enjoyed doing. And so when I was talking with these companies, I said, hey, like, I don't want to just go to the mountains, train and race a few times a year. Like I want to do your photo shoots. I want to be in brand campaigns. I want to consult with you guys on apparel and shoe technology. That really, really can add value to you as an athlete. And I think a lot of companies are excited when they hear someone is on board to do those things. The last thing I'll add is I think a lot of people think there's a few shoe companies that I want to sign with. There's, there's the ones out there that everyone can name, the Nikes, the Adidases, the yada yadas. I think for any up and coming athlete, trail, track, roads, whatever, don't be afraid to think outside the box. Look for a niche in that market. There was a company that I was talking to that is really, really big in Europe, but they wanted to get into the US. Their shoe technology was maybe a year or two behind what I wanted, but I was going to be able to develop with them. Those are things that you can look for that can create a lot of value and can actually, those are companies willing to pay you a lot more because they need to sign athletes. So those are a few things I was sort of thinking about when I was talking with companies last year. But there isn't like a script for everyone. A lot of it is, just be yourself and, try to be the best runner you can be and know that that is sort of what a lot of these sports marketing people will see is the result on paper. But there's a lot of things behind the scenes that you can do to create value.
Awesome. Courtney, moving on to you. And this is great because this is like kind of what Drew was just talking about. But from having a dedicated team or camps, culture, like what products they offer, how do you know when a brand is the right fit? So thinking about brand fit.
Yeah, that's a good question, and it really pulls off a lot of what Drew said. If you are lucky enough to be in the spot where you have the opportunity to be talking to several different brands, then really make sure that you're doing the due diligence to make sure that you are bringing a value to a brand that can also bring value back to you. I think brand fit is like a really interesting, huge conversation that can be like a whole other hour in podcast on its own. But basically there are going to be brands that are focused on really specific things. And if you, like I said, have the opportunity to be chatting with multiple, really think through specifically in the trail world, right? I am just coming off of 2 months of massive contract negotiations because my career trajectory changed dramatically in this last year. And I had the opportunity to interact with several different companies and brands and really ask the questions, where are you trying to go? And if you're trying to make this your career, think more than 1 year down the line too. Think 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Just because a brand is investing in something right now doesn't mean it's always going to invest in that. And so really be keen on who you are too. Specifically, I have been with Brooks, and Brooks has been really forthcoming on saying we are a team-based kind of sponsor and team, and we're going to provide a team atmosphere through the year and through racing. Now, for me, I have always been such a team player. I've been so extrinsically motivated my whole career. And I joke about it as if I didn't have other people around me, I probably wouldn't run. But if I have my teammates, I have my coaches, I have people in my corner, I'm gonna go and do the thing. And so that was really important for me when I was speaking to Brooks. They were really interested in backing people that could offer that team-based kind of like attitude rather than the person that was just going to be in their own zone, cranking out the workouts, cranking out the results. And sure, like companies will want those people, but I knew what I could bring was a more holistic perspective on running. I had a previous professional career on the track and had gone through a handful of years where I was figuring myself out. And so when I was talking to Brooks, they saw that value in me. They said, you have a lot that you can bring from your past. And we had those conversations and built it to be something that was conducive to both of us. So yeah, I think brand fit is a huge conversation and something to be aware of, because you can also get pretty siloed or siphoned with a brand if you're not aware of what they're looking for. Specifically in the trail world, certain brands are going to write contracts that are really ultra heavy or really sub ultra heavy or really Western States heavy, UTMB heavy. And so be aware, look at those contracts and talk to them about where they're putting their money, because do you see yourself racing those races for the next 2 to 3 years? And so, yeah, you have to be real with yourself on that, because I think it's easy to take the low-hanging fruit of a brand's interested in me, but really think about holistically what's going to serve you best in your career and make you that best version of yourself and best runner.
Maybe a quick follow-up on that is like, how do you find out what like a brand's like ethos is? Because I've had a lot of conversations and people are like, oh, I like really want to run for this brand because they care about the environment or something. And I'm like, oh, they're like Googling the brand. And maybe that's not like a true representation of what it's like to be an athlete, because an athlete, you're almost like an employee. So how do you like find out about, how did you find out about?
Personally, for me, I do not work with an agent. And so I connected so deeply into who all of the athlete managers are through people that I am bumping shoulders with day to day, which, back to like Drew's point there, or whoever's point, they're not going to come to you. You need to go to them. Go to them and find out where their brand strategy is. I'm fascinated in the last 4 weeks of conversations I was having with specific brands that are wanting to move in really unique areas. Like I had a conversation with a brand that historically has only been in trail, and they're telling me that they want to build out a track team in Boulder, and that was shocking. And I had a conversation with another brand that has been more the track road stuff, and they're wanting to go into 200-mile plus ultras and like skip all the other distances. And so, when I hear that, I feel strongly I'm saying I'm not really a good fit for you. But yeah, I think that warrants a larger conversation of like we need to be having these conversations as a community. Because really the like nuggets of truth lie within these small teams at these small companies. And unless they're sharing that with other people, we don't know. You can assume a brand's gonna be sustainable or whatever and really move into that world, but you have no idea, because they're having these conversations, every year and might move in an entirely different direction, which sometimes is hilarious. And you can like take a risk on a company that's doing a crazy move, and so.
Yeah, like my perception is like maybe you can get like some transparency from maybe like social media. Like brands are, again, like maybe they're broadcasting what they're wanting to do. So like when I see, I'm looking at Eli, but like Adidas loves like the UTMB races, right? You can see that, it's really obvious. They have a team. That's like an obvious piece to like what they show. And then maybe another piece is like talking to athletes who run for those brands. That can be like a useful thing. And then again, like, because it's hard to, like, I hear what you're saying, it's really hard to get in touch with brand managers who are the people who are actually like making the decisions and having that vision, and they don't always share what they're looking for and doing. So like to Drew's point, like you don't always know this brand is looking for an athlete that looks like me or something until it's too late maybe. Awesome. Maybe just a quick rapid fire through the group. Do you have an agent, and would you recommend that to an upcoming person? We'll start with Eli.
So we actually just started working with an agent. I don't like talking numbers with companies. I am terrible at advocating for myself, and I will always get less money than anyone else will for me. So we started working with a company, with Howie Management, and it's kind of just one of those things. It's kind of a load off my shoulders. Again, because I hate confrontation and I hate advocating for myself. So let's let somebody else do it and see how that goes.
Great, Drew.
I have an agent, yes. I think that there are certain people in the sport who should have agents. If you're an incredibly high earner, I think you should have an agent because they will maximize your return a lot better than you, and that's not something you want to stress about. So I think if you're just getting into the sport, a good mentor / agent is something. It doesn't necessarily have to be an agent, but someone that can help you, get your foot in the door with companies or something like that. I personally think if you're sort of in the middle of the road, you don't need an agent. I feel like I'm in that position now. Like I was actually going to negotiate my last contract, and there was some other things that went on where I ended up not doing that, but I book all my own travel. I choose all my own races. I go out and get all my secondary sponsors. So someone like me probably is a little bit of a waste of time and money. I rarely talk to my agent. Ironically enough, I was texting him today. But I think sort of if you've been established, you have a good relationship with a brand or some brands, you can save some time and money by representing yourself. But you're right, you do want to know yourself, and if that's something that you feel uncomfortable talking about money with, or you feel uncomfortable, putting yourself out there, then maybe it would be wise to have an agent. But I definitely think there is a sort of middle ground. I have some guys on my team that are in this position that don't have agents, and they're not running Diamond League races. They're not, negotiating really big contracts or anything. And so for them, a few, thousands of dollars of prize money that they don't have to give a percentage to their agent goes a long way for them, and they don't necessarily need someone representing them for that stuff.
Awesome. Do you mind sharing who your agent is really quickly?
Yeah, my agent's Ray Flynn.
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. Courtney.
Well, as the agentless person, I agree a lot with what Drew said. I think a majority of athletes don't need agents, and if you're looking to break into the scene, exactly what he said, make connections with people in the community that can mentor you, that can connect you. In the last 2 months, have had so many people just give me names and emails, and I've done the same back and forth with a lot of people and make introductions. And I think that goes a long way. I will also say there is a small hot take that I'll put out there. Some athlete managers don't even like working with agents because sometimes they want to deal directly with the athlete and hear from them. And so that's not always the case, but I'll put that out there. But I waffled back and forth this year of do I get one, do I not? And it came down to, I'm in the middle grade of what I'm earning on the scale of athletes out here. It's I'm not making the $500,000 salary. In those cases, those people absolutely should. But I really do believe that you can get really far without that, but you do have to put in work. It's not just gonna come to you. And so I also had a full-blown corporate career up until this year. And so I have that business acumen where I'm I know how to have those conversations. I'm not afraid of the numbers. And so I think that was the right fit for me, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and just to clarify a couple things for maybe people who don't know, you've talked about athlete managers. That's a role of someone who might work for one of the shoe brands, for instance, and that will choose athletes to sponsor. And maybe to clarify, agents usually take 15% or something like that. So one can imagine that there's probably some barrier of money if you're making almost no money, that would not be worth it. But if they're helping you get a lot more money from a contract, then that would be worth it. Is that fair to say for you guys?
Yeah.
Although sometimes with the $0 contracts, they are helpful if you can get something. There's a difference, and maybe we'll have a conversation of a salary versus not. And sometimes to get in the door, it actually could be really helpful. And they're not really making any money off of you, but they've made that connection. So.
Yeah. And I think in the trail world, agents don't necessarily do as much work as they do in the track world, because you were talking about them signing up for races, them getting into meets, those, as far as I know, that's not really necessarily a thing in the trail world. We sign up for our own races, so it's a little bit more just on the brand negotiation side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think maybe we'll get into that in a minute, because I think there's really different roles that are good to clarify, because I think, from my experience, I have not had an agent. To Drew's point, when I've tried to get into track meets, that's when you need an agent or a coach maybe to advocate for you if you're an elite track athlete. If you're an elite road athlete or someone who's in between, maybe like the people you run with, Drew, I've had a lot of experience emailing race directors and being like, is there travel support to this road race? And that's actually really a good thing that's out there. And so I think that's really good to share for a lot of like up and coming runners. Like the road space has a lot of support that isn't, you don't need an agent, you don't need a coach, you don't need other people. And that's maybe like a good development zone. In the trail world, it's maybe the same. Like you can get into many races as anyone. Like you don't have to have a special resume potentially. And these kind of people like agents and coaches don't help you necessarily. Hopefully that's true and accurate. You guys can back me up on that. Awesome. Okay, let's see. Eli, I got a question for you. And you kind of, maybe now learning more about you, this might be the wrong question for you, but like I've seen a lot of people when they're like passionate about running, that's why they get into running, but then it changes when you become a professional, it becomes a job. So I guess I just want you to speak to like, how does that, like what are the downsides of external motivation? Because like specifically, like I've heard this fact that once you get like paid a certain number to do something, you'll like never want to get paid less. So it's kind of like this hard game as a professional. Like I've been running for 10 years and you're like, oh, I don't want to like, it feels bad to be less sponsored, for instance. But anyway, can you speak to this shift of becoming a professional in terms of like motivation and how that looks different to you?
Yeah, no, actually, I've gone quite a bit through this, like just recently. Like I had a fantastic race last year at OCC, and I got a pay raise from that. And then this year, I had okay races, very okay races. I would mark them as bad, but that's just me. No, it is something that like I do believe that when you start to get paid more and you see it as a job, it becomes this little bit more, there's pressure, there is, hey, maybe that's when you should start talking to a sports psych, when you were saying earlier. No, but there is kind of this little bit more pressure that you put on yourself to perform at the exact same level. And like in, say, the ultra running world, there's so much that can happen and there's so much time that things can happen. And so like one of my biggest things like coming up this next year is going back to the joy of running. And like, I think Tabor and I both have separate jobs and realizing like, oh yeah, like this is something that I do for fun and I'm just happy to be out here doing it.
Yeah. You just reminded me, I want to ask another quick rapid fire everyone question, maybe just like a yes, no basically, but do you have a job outside of running? Because I think a lot of people, there's this blurry line with professionalism where one, you might not get paid enough by a brand or a series of prize money and brands to pay for your living, but also like maybe you just need something to balance your life. So just quickly, do you have a job outside? Sounds like you do. Yep.
Multiple.
Yep.
Sort of.
Yeah. Because you do coaching and many other things, Drew. Is that accurate in the sort of realm?
Yeah, it's like a coaching business, but it's my coaching business. So it's sort of like how much I want to work depends on how much I want to work. But mainly full-time running.
Hammer and axe, right?
Yes.
They have great tips online if you guys want to check it out. Courtney, how about you?
Coaching, yeah.
Yeah, and you've had, like you said, you've had a job. Did you have this like full-time corporate job while running?
Oh yeah, up until February, and getting laid off in the tech world was the best thing that ever happened for me, so.
Awesome. Okay, all right, Drew, moving on to you. Quickly, how important are media versus performance in running? So I think that's like, I think young up and coming people are thinking about like, how do you balance that? What's the most important? Do you have to value both? Can you not have one?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's probably different opinions on this, so I'm going to give you my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that, as I'm sure everyone here is aware, like running has very blown up in the last few years, due to super shoes and everyone wanting to run marathons and COVID, people exercising for the first time in forever and prioritizing their health and, all those different things. So I do think that running does feel a little bit more corporate. I don't know if that's the right word, but you know, like you have influencers starting before the pro fields, now marathons, and there's some controversy online about that if you guys want to go down a rabbit hole. But personally, I think like a good blend of both has always been really important. I think it's really important for elite athletes to know their story and to be able to explain and tell their story online. That's always been powerful for myself and the people around me. Like I think a lot of people actually resonate with things outside of my running. Like I have two daughters, and you know, I get more messages about my kids than my running, but they know me because of my performance. So I think that that's really what I would advise and suggest everyone do, is to know your story. Don't be afraid to be yourself and to share your story as much as you can, and then try to kick ass at races. I feel like that's a really good formula for success within, you know, our day and age, because brands are looking, you know, at the end of the day. Like I remember being in a meeting with like a, you know, an exec at one of these big companies, and she's like, Drew, at the end of the day, it's about selling shoes. And she's like, most runners don't sell shoes. That's the truth of the matter. But there are ways that we can sell shoes, and there are ways that we can market ourselves, and there are ways that we can, you know, tell our story so that people resonate with who we are as people. And then they say, hey, what shoes are they wearing? They're fast. Or, you know, I think that, so like I said, I don't know if there's a perfect formula. I think everyone's different. Some people are really good at talking to the camera. Some people are more, you know, reserved and shy, but you see them out on the course or out on the trails and you're like, wow, they're amazing athletes. So like I said, I think I'll reiterate one more time, just know yourself, know your story, and don't be afraid to share that as much as you can.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from you is like, be authentic. Because I think like sometimes when I have these discussions, like some people are like, maybe they don't have an Instagram. They don't have like any social media presence, and that's because they're shy. And so like I think how you put it was, you're in charge of your dialogue, but maybe also be authentic. Is that kind of accurate? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I do think like, I think of so many different people. Like I love like, you know, like Ali Ostrander, how much she shares about who she is as an athlete, and like even like, you know, the dark sides of like her past, and you know, things that she, you know, like held her back as an athlete. And people love that, and people love that authenticity, but also like her story is different than someone else's story. So you don't have to be her. You can be Drew or, you know, Eli or Courtney. But knowing who you are is really important, and just being able to talk about that. And in any way, you know, you want, like some people feel comfortable with, you know, a format of video. Some people feel better with newsletters or podcasts, but I do think there is so many mediums to share who you are, and figure out what excites you and do that. Like I, you know, for my coaching business, like I really love long form media. Like I love podcasts. I love newsletters. That's just, I like talking. Sure, I can talk all night. I'm sure you guys can tell. But for me, that's how I like to communicate. But other people are, you know, they can do really, you know, short, fun things, and that's who their personality is. So I do think, you know, just like I said, like there's a lot of different ways to you know, market yourself and brand yourself.
Awesome, thanks. All right, Courtney, get a lot of questions about basically like sponsorship with shoe brands versus the rest. So like socks or nutrition or watches. So maybe can you speak to that? Like, what do those look like? Are they different? Like your own experience with that? I don't know if you.
Totally. So yeah, I think a majority of us professionals that are working with a shoe brand also go after smaller sponsorships and smaller deals. For me personally, I'll speak, you know, how I feel about it. I really like working with smaller companies that feel really organic to me. I started that by kind of looking at my day-to-day and what am I using and what am I naturally promoting out on the trails or the roads or whatever. And just like started there. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be somebody that is like seeking out a company to sign for, you know, like some accessory that I don't ever wear or have worn or don't really know anything about. I think some people do that, and that's great. I wanted to feel really like that was aligned for me. And so this last year I picked up a fueling sponsor, and they actually just started like an on-the-ground presence in the US. And I really was intrigued by helping grow that here. And the people that were involved actually became like close friends and, people that I feel like I can lean on for more than just like a sponsor. And then I'm actively working to bring on a few others for this next year that were like really organic, like things that when I was having these conversations with these brands, I was like, this is like a no-brainer for me. I don't have to say, okay, can you send me some so I can try it to make sure? And I don't have to, going to the media stuff, like force post this in a way that like my following or people watching will be like, that's weird. Like, why is there that weird protein shake now always in her photos? I think brands also are going back to that authenticity and away from like this massive, well, I guess there's a whole other conversation we have about the influencers, but I think we're starting to see brands that overinvested in like this influencing that felt really like forced and sterile, and now going back to like, okay, what are the athletes that are actually on the ground using and doing, and let's put money and support into those that are already using our products. So that's how I feel about bringing on accessory smaller brands. Yeah.
Who's the nutrition sponsor you work with?
Oh yeah, I work with Open Fuel. So they're a South African-based company that recently launched in the US, and there's like a little Front Range hub of people that are working to like grow this fueling company. It's like, for me, and this actually goes against what I just said, I had never used their product, but I started using it when I was approached by somebody that was like, hey, we're trying to grow this on the ground presence here. And I was like, whoa, I really like your branding and who you guys are. It's really loud and funky and weird, and that's something I relate with.
See recent post.
Yeah, see, it's a whole other conversation. And so, yeah, that for me, I was like, I wanted to work with a small company too that I could grow with. Of like, yes, I was going to bring on a fueling sponsor and get paid very little. But I wrote a contract with them that had a bit of growth in it of like, okay, if I can get, certain bonuses, hits here or whatever, then you'll pay me more. But I also want to like test your products. And I also want to be on the ground at group runs that are like promoting it at a booth, or send me to TRE or whatever it is. I want to be more of like an employee of your company. That was really enticing to me. So yeah, Open Fuel's rad, high carb fueling mix.
Cool. Yeah, I can relate to that. Like I work with Darn Tough socks. I just like literally love their socks, and I love that they give me the ability to like do fun runs and give giveaways and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's like great finding these smaller sponsors. All right. I think the next one is, here's a couple questions. I polled people online before this, so these are some from people online, but maybe I'll ask this one for whoever wants it. Is when should I talk to brands? Like, what's a good timeline?
I mean, I'll take this. I guess.
Take it.
I guess so. If you're having good success in racing, I don't think there's necessarily a wrong time to start talking with them. Like, obviously, there's kind of, they work with their budget, like, and their season. So like, everybody's like, oh yeah, October is like signing season, but that's like, you want to be done with talking by then, and you want to be talked with all different companies that you can talk with by then. So like, if you're having like great success, if you're having like all this stuff happen right now, say like, okay, well, I'm going to go talk to a company. Obviously right now is kind of that time that is the signing season, but like, if it's no matter what time of year, I think it's not a terrible time like to use that as, my platform is big right now, my stock is higher, let's talk with a company.
Yeah. Yeah, to elaborate on what Eli says, because I've probably told this to everyone I talked on the phone with the last month, which is like the end of the year is like signing season, and that's because brands, like many other organizations, have to figure out a budget for the next year. It's usually in the fall so that they can plan for their next year. And then in some order, it would look like they'd have figure out their budget, find out if they're re-signing athletes that they've already had, or increasing the pay for athletes that they might already have, and seeing if that matches, seeing if they want to add new athletes, see if people's contracts are already up that they have. And so that's kind of how that timeline works. So maybe if you're a new athlete, you kind of be at the end of that, and you might not hear back for a while. So a lot of the athletes I've been talking to have been like ghosted. They've been talked to, they'll try to start these conversations, and they're kind of like, well, we have to like do all these other pieces first. But yeah, to Eli's point, I also asked my roommate Mika about this today, because he is someone who signed with Brooks, I think in June 2023. And he's like, oh, like all these people, he named them off, signed in the middle of the year. So I think there are room in budgets for athletes to get signed after a big performance. And I guess my quick piece of advice for all of you is, yes, this is a good time of year to talk to someone like a brand manager if you can get that contact, if they're the right fit. And even if they say no, that's a useful thing, because then those people might know who you are for when you do have that breakout race. So even if you get a no and you're in limbo, that sometimes can be a good thing if you're an aspiring athlete, so that you're kind of on their radar. And then hopefully your performances and kind of media presence will help build your reputation. Awesome. Another question for anybody who wants it. Here's one from social media, someone wrote in, is it better to win a smaller race or do worse in a big one? I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but.
I personally think it's really good to practice winning. And even if that means in a smaller race to start, that's something I've been trying to almost relearn. It's really, I want to say easy. It's really easy to get, second through fifth. It's really hard to win. And I think that's a skill that you should try to practice more often than not. I had a really, really bad year in 2023. And when I started my season in 2024, which was an Olympic year, I started with like the biggest softball races. I was just like, I'm going to races where I'm the only pro athlete there, and I'm just going to go practice winning. And it helped me immensely with my confidence, with belief in myself, with, like I said, that skill of learning to win races and cross the finish line first. So I personally think that it's great to, start in the kiddie pool if you need to and slowly move up. Jumping in the deep end is fun, but I also think it's good to learn the skill of trying to win races as best you can. And that doesn't necessarily mean like getting second at a big race is a bad thing. That's not what I'm saying at all. I just think winning in smaller races allows you to learn so that you can win, the big races at some point.
Yeah, that's great advice. And by the way, Drew, from memory, hopefully I'm not messing this up, got fourth in the 10K, which was a new event. He's kind of known as a miler back in the day, last year at the Olympic trials. So that's pretty incredible to move up through the ranks and tactically work on all those tactics to be able to beat people and place that well. So that's awesome.
Although I'll challenge Drew's on the trail side.
Yeah, trail's pretty
I'm speaking track speaking.
Yeah.
I know nothing about the trails, guys. I'm sorry.
I had a handful of years where I won a lot of small races, and I almost was going to say I didn't win anything this year. I did win GoPro Games in Vail, a small race.
Nice job.
But really, I didn't win anything this year, and this was the biggest year of my life. So I think there's a lot to be said too about but this was the first year that I gave myself the shot to race on a world level and really buy into that. And for me, I needed the underdog mentality because if I have struggled a lot with the mental side of sport and knowing if basically I was several years in the sport of saying if I don't stand up on this line and win, then I'm a failure. And so when I re-entered the sport this time, because I also joked that I've retired in the sport 3 times. So out of this retirement, I was like, there's going to be no expectations and no pressure. And so for me, getting 10th at a World Series race was huge. And I just worked my way up so steadily and, finished still 10th. But that was huge for me, and it changed my life. So I think the trail world's a little bit different too, because these races are like a lot longer. And so I think it was more compared to like a marathon major, where it's like, yeah, if you're the first American at New York, that's rad. And so it's like, if I'm the first American Golden Trail, like that's amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think that's kind of what I was thinking when I read that question, because especially in the trail world, there's like too many races. And so it's like pretty meaningless to win like your local not backyard, shouldn't use that, it's like coined, but local race. It might be like winning a local 5K. So unfortunately, it's like, it's better to win a big race. It's not good to just win a local race. It's not good to do okay in a big race. You have to win a big race.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're getting close to the end here. I want to make sure we save time for your guys' questions and questions in the audience online. So if anyone here has a question, let us know. We have a question from the audience basically saying, if you're directly asked by a brand manager, like, what is your literal money value? How do you answer that question? So is anyone willing to take that one?
So from my personal experience this last year, and I'm not recommending this for everyone, but this is what I did. I'm just going to be honest. I went to my agent and I said, this is how much money I have to make to justify me continuing to run. What companies can get here? And he was like, these are the 5 companies I think can do this. And that sort of started the conversation. So I was very, very blunt with him and very, very honest. The reason I'm sharing that is the number we actually got to was higher than what I was even saying. So do not be afraid to advocate for yourself, and don't be afraid to just be honest with your situation. I have other guys on my team that literally were like, someone could give me a contract for gear and I would sign that tomorrow. And that they're happy with that. They have, a career outside their running that they love and supports their running. And that's totally awesome and great. But I do think, and my agent even actually told me afterwards, he said, I actually really appreciated you just being like, this is what I need, because I knew exactly what companies would be excited to get to that number for you. And that's how I sort of went about that. So, but also for me, like, just a little bit of more of a background for people who just need to put that in context. Like, my wife stopped her career so we could have children. And so I was the only person making money in our house. And so it was a very high priority that I was running for enough for our family. And everyone's different, like some people, that's not a concern for them, or that's not something they think about. But for me, like, I was like, hey, I'm going to go do something else if I can't run for this amount of money. And I do think that actually sort of helped me in, just clearing space for what brands were interested in, what brands weren't.
Awesome. I'm just going to follow that up really quickly, which I did an anonymous survey online this week asking my professional runner friends, hopefully, who answered how much money they made, basically, as professionals. Because my perspective is, like, I think that I often hear a lot of people who are like professional runners making like a living wage or higher. And my experience is, just be truthful, I've never made a living wage. I've always had a side job. I know there's a lot of professional runners who are sponsored by brands that have $0 contracts and things like that. I think it's really common. So just quickly, so people who have, out of the people I polled, it was 32 responses. Between $0 and $2,000 was 6%. Between $2,000 and $10,000 was also 6%. Between $10,000 and $25,000 was 21%. Between $25,000 and $45,000 was 10%. And then above $45,000 was 34%. So this was of professional runners, didn't say trail or track or road or anything. But so basically kind of a spread where the biggest category was actually 45,000 or above. So maybe there's a bias with people who are answering this survey to speak to that. Cool. We have another question.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. When I made my running resume this year, like half of it was performances, but the other half was who am I as a person and where's my reach elsewhere? Because there's like the word reach, like I co-own a coaching company with 2 other like stud sub-ultra, well now maybe ultra runners. I'm like doing stuff on the ground in Boulder. I'm working on these specific projects with other smaller companies, and all of that is holistically who you are. And I think you can also market yourself too of like, I'm a teacher or whatever you're bringing. I think it is important to lead with that. Unfortunately, I would like the brands to be asking that more of like, what else are you bringing to the table? I think there's a call to like push in that direction. I'd love to hear that more, right? I'd love for people to be like, okay, so tell me about your life outside of running. I've not had that all that often, but I definitely lead with that. And so I don't know if that's like data on it, but.
The first question that Courtney just answered was, is there any kind of like negotiating power with who am I besides performance? And Courtney just answered that. And then the follow-up was, do we think that non-endemic, so sponsors that are maybe not traditional, are more aware of that? I think summarizing.
I guess, I don't necessarily know a whole lot with non-endemic sponsors. You go for it.
I'm sponsored by Thule. People know what that is like. They sponsor me because I have kids and they have the best running stroller. And so that was actually something that was, like nothing to do with performance. They want me to post photos of my cute kids and me running with them in the stroller. And I like absolutely love that sponsor because it's like, they're the nicest people. They could care less about my running performance, which sometimes is nice. But like it's a great sponsor and it fits sort of who I am as a person. So, they support me financially and with gear as well.
Great. Do we have any other questions here? I'm just gonna again re-say that so this gets recorded. How are we like interacting with sponsors? Is that in person, maybe at a race? Is it like a cold call from us, the athlete, I guess, to the brand? Is it from the brand to us? I think I'm paraphrasing that correctly.
I can answer this one. No, so all of our sponsors have started with email. It's kind of interesting, like, I don't know, I've never seen athlete managers out and about. I've never known exactly who they are. Whereas if I have an email address, I know exactly who they are. I can give it to them, say, this is who I am, this is what I want to be talking about. And then later, like if that is a conversation that they want to continue, that's when we'll actually like maybe talk in person, whatnot.
I've had a mix of both. Like the Thule one I just talked about, a guy who works for the company just knew who I was, loved running, and was like, hey, like, can we do something here? And that's how that started. Another company that I reached out to was Precision because I've been using their fueling stuff, and I was just like, hey, like, I know you guys are more, road trail focused, but I'd love to be one of your guys' track athletes. And I initiated that sort of conversation. And then, like agent through shoe companies is the traditional route for like the bigger sponsors for me.
I think you can also get connected through people too. Like I went on a run with somebody that was like, yeah, I'm sponsored by this company. I was like, oh, do you think they're interested in getting into the sub-ultra world? And they're like, actually, let me email my athlete manager and see. And got back to me, was like, actually, yeah, they're really interested, and connected me. So I think an additional is like through other people. Just like put your name out there and ask. Like, and if your name is floating around in the ether, like people will grab it and want to have conversations. The more you have conversations, the more your name's out there.
Awesome. Any other questions from the audience? Here we go. I'm just going to say again, sorry for on the recording. So to paraphrase that question was, how the heck do you get a hold of the brand manager for any of these brands if you're an up and coming athlete because you have no idea?
Well, I think this question was asked maybe from a collegiate athlete, and I would recommend, I met with one of these collegiate athletes today. She reached out to me in a weird kind of twisted way of like, we had some connections with my family. However, she reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm in Golden. I'm really looking into growing my career and making this professional, but I have no idea what to do. Like, reach out to people like us that are open to mentoring. Andy and Carly do a really great job at doing that. There are people that are happy to lead you through that and connect you. Because chances that you go and like sign with an agent and get something, maybe, but like come to us and we're we'd love to help you navigate through that. There are a lot of people like us here that want to pour into this type of community. And so shout out to the audience member here that did that today. Because I'm like stoked on helping her through the rest of her collegiate career and into whatever it comes. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. Like personal connections probably help a lot with like personal introductions to someone. It'd be useful. All right, any other questions from the audience? I got a fun one really quickly if we don't have one before we go, because someone, this is like a variety of ways, but someone asked online earlier this week, what's the quickest way to get sponsored? And I think that's like a great question though, because I think there's also one, maybe this is like a tie-in, because there's one that also says best races to plan for in 2026. And my mind is going to like, oh, just win UTMB, you know? So I think, I don't know if anyone else has
that was my exact thought, is just win a big race.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way. But
if you just win a big race, you get paid.
So, but maybe a better follow-up would be, because I feel like this is my realm with the trail team, is people are typically unsponsored until they have this breakout race, winning UTMB. Like, what do you do in the meantime? Do you just like use your own expenses? Like, how do we navigate that? Does anyone want to? You guys want to speak to that?
Well, so I think kind of one of the things that if you do want to become a sponsored athlete is kind of betting on yourself. And like, if that is, I have another job, I do kind of empty the bank account to get to those big races to put my shot out there. I think that's kind of one of the best things you can do is betting on yourself. Yeah, me and Tabor, we emptied our bank account to go to Sears and All. Andy told us to go to that one, by the way. It was a bad idea. I got my teeth kicked in, but Tabor started our career that way. So it is one of those, like, you do have to bet on yourself to really get out there. So you do, I think it's worth spending the money going for it.
Yeah, runners are scrappy, and I feel like there's a million different paths you can take. I'm on a team with guys that have contracts where they don't have to do any work outside of running. They're full-time professional athletes. I have guys that are on gear deals with bonuses, meaning they have to run, a certain time standard or something like that to hit a bonus. And so they have a job outside of that. And then I have guys who work full-time jobs, no contracts whatsoever, don't even get gear. And we all train together a few times a week, and all of them have their path and they're confident in what they can do, and all of them have improved as professionals, meaning there isn't like a right or a wrong way to do it. It's just what works for you and what makes sense for your life. Some people are totally comfortable living off of absolutely nothing for a long period of time. And they can chase the dream, and they can, work odd jobs or, do things to support their running career. And I just think there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Really, I think the dream stops when you decide it stops. And so if you're, chasing it and it's something you're passionate about, and it doesn't make sense to anyone else, that's okay, as long as it, is what you want to be doing and feel compelled to keep pursuing it.
And I'll end on my hot take, and that is the quickest way to get sponsored is to not set the goal of getting sponsored, because I think a lot of times you can be like, I have to get sponsored. I'd say have fun with it. Go out there and be your best self, because usually your performances will come when you're enjoying it and you're crossing the finish line in first or 10th and have a smile on your face and you're bringing energy to the running community. That is what matters. Not somebody that's white knuckling for one performance so that they get a 4-year sponsorship so that they never perform again. So hot take, but.
Yeah. I just want to add one more thing before we wrap up. I think this is awesome and great that we're having this conversation. When I signed a pro contract in 2016. Money and sponsorship in our sport was almost taboo. Literally, it was just, you could not talk about it. Have those conversations. Ask people what they make. Do not be afraid to do that. That is how we make our sport better. It's how we make people in the sport have, better opportunities. And it starts with the athletes. And I think that's something that has slowly been changing, but it's really, really important to do that. And I think yeah, like I just think that this is awesome that we're having something like this, because I do think, you know, even 5 or 6 years ago, like this would, like I said, feel taboo to even be discussing these things. So yeah, like I said, if you're curious, ask someone. Don't be afraid. Find a mentor. Find someone that you know, a path that you think is inspiring or something you would want to do, and don't be afraid to, you know, like Courtney was saying, like people want to help you on that path, and people want to, you know, allow you to live this dream as well. So,
awesome. All right, unless we have any burning questions, I think it's a great way to end it. Thanks everyone for coming. If you guys don't follow them already or know who our athletes are, again, it's Eli Hemming, it's Drew Hunter, and Courtney Coppinger. We're gonna put links to their social media and ways to follow them, find them, get coached by them in our show notes, so please follow along. Thanks for coming, and if you have any more questions, reach out to us online, because that's a great way to start the conversation. Thank you.